Ross Thomson.
Would you like to hear my theory about Ross Thomson?
I would love to hear your theory about Ross
And
Thomson.
Douglas Ross as well.
Douglas Ross is the referee guy, is that right?
Yeah, he's the guy who is a referee, but if a football comes within 10 yards of him, he falls on the floor. Somehow.
So these jabronis somehow got elected at the last general election, and your theory about
My
them
theory is there's a guy somewhere called Douglas Ross Thomson. He's got a double-barreled Tory name, and he's a very competent, excellent potential politician. It's like maybe being a lawyer or something, like kind of older guy. So he filled in his paperwork and sent it away to Tory HQ to like become a nominee to run for election. But somewhere along the line, wires get crossed, and somehow they sent out letters to Ross Thomson and Douglas Ross by mistake.
This is kind of the plot of Scoop.
Yeah. It is straight out of Evil and War. Yeah. So these hapless two guys accidentally get elected to Parliament.
And hilarity ensues.
I smell a sitcom.
To you, to me.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but I mean, what other plausible explanations could there possibly be?
It's just like people, presumably, in their local area, knew who these people were and thought, you know who we have to have in charge? These guys.
No.
The public looked at
Yeah,
them and
I know,
thought, we're
but-
going to vote for those guys.
Well, yeah, but
For
they
the
may be-
second time, he was an MSP. Well, Douglas Ross
Jesus
was.
Christ, I did not know that. Who are they up against?
What
I mean,
was Ross Thomson
Good
before?
God, I mean, if you were the SNP candidate there, you'd want to fucking shoot yourself after losing to these people.
I want to say Ross Thompson was a councillor, was he not? I think they were both elected
Officials
reps before the 2017
I mean, Ross
election.
So they're not a
Thomson-
new problem, is what you're telling me. They've actually been around being weird for a long time. They're only now breaking
Well,
the
people.
mainstream.
The thing is, people just don't pay attention most of the time to politicians.
I certainly don't.
That was the case with the old Labour MPs. It was that when you had that kind of surge of the SNP, and it was clear that they were going to win a load of seats, the Labour Party had to start campaigning for the first time, and the more they campaigned, the worse it got for them, because the only reason they'd be getting elected would be that nobody had ever paid any attention to them. They hadn't needed to campaign, so people hadn't noticed how fucking awful they were. But with the likes of Ross Thomson, I mean, Ross Thompson's like a Jim Carrey character, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? It's just...
He doesn't. He feels like I was going to say. What's that? Who is America guy? Sorry, I've totally let him.
Sacha
Yeah,
Baron
he seems like one of those
Cohen.
type of characters where it's like he's just a guy that's there to maybe see how stupid he can make the Tory party. So he's like, by being there and cheering on Boris Johnson, it's like, how badly can I mess all this stuff up by just...
God, did you see that? They were carrying him the way you carry a coffin at a fucking funeral. You see that video? Yeah, it was like a video phone. What fucking age am I? Jesus. Yeah, phone video of Boris kind of. Boris from behind, but he looks really unwell, even though you can't see his face.
Well, that's because he's due for some sort of massive coronary anytime soon, Boris, isn't he? I mean,
Boris should make a really good Bond villain, I think. And when they do the Idris Elba version, which hopefully will come round, he'll be breaking into the Tory HQ to get the evil Boris Johnson, and the first henchman he'll come up against will be Ross Thompson. And all they have to do is like just karate chop him in the neck once, and he'll just collapse in the ground, and then he'll kick a football at Douglas Ross, and he'll fall down.
Ross Thompson running with like a non-EU regulated vacuum cleaner towards him. Like, I'll get you, Mr. Bond.
Now, Ross Thompson's got the fucking swords that he stole from that visit in Iraq. Do you remember those pictures? Jesus fucking Christ.
The one where it looks like the shittest Wolverine movie that's never been made. That one he's got the fucking archway shot.
I think, if I remember correctly, his jacket is still buttoned. That's just a no-no. Obviously, Thompson is getting in amongst Johnson ahead of a potential future leadership bid, thinking that there might be a cabinet position for him. But Ross Thompson went
There isn't.
to state school, so there's no chance of that happening. Not a fucking chance.
This comes back to this amazing clip from the podcast, probably my favourite one ever, when Tucker, you talked to us all about the different hierarchies within the Tory party and how there's like the cut
stratas of posh.
Exactly. And I think that pretty much sums it up. Like, Ross is just this ultimate fucking wannabe. In the same way, though, that Boris is, as you've articulated, the ultimate wannabe. Like Jacob Rees-Mogg is the ultimate wannabe, because it's the Cameron crowd that are actually cut from the real,
they're the
genuine
people that
stuff.
are related to the Queen. I'm from a scumbag bit of where I'm from, but I passed an 11 plus and got to go to a grammar school and walk amongst the mighty. And something that is visible to me that's not necessarily visible to everybody else is that there are strata of class within the upper classes that are sort of invisible from the outside. So Rees-Mogg likes to behave as if he's landed gentry, but he isn't, in fact. And I don't know this, I think the money might actually come from the wife. But anyway, this is the thing that's interesting in the power play between, for instance, Boris and David Cameron as well, in that the very, very top strata of proper aristocracy are people who are, like loosely related to the Queen. David Cameron is in that. They're the people that have been in charge for like the last 1,000 years. But beneath them, there are people who look just the same to us, but they are. It was that Jacob Rees-Mogg was described by one of his colleagues as a man who buys his own furniture, which is a slur in that he hasn't got a load of stuff that he's inherited as part of da-da-da. They are people who are trade, and you see this if you've ever read Jane Austen, that there's gentlemen and gentlewomen, and then there are people who are rich but they're trade, and that is a social strata that was very evident then, and it's still evident to those people now, but it's not evident to us. And I think that's worth bearing in mind. Jacob Rees-Mogg is trying to be something that his peers know he isn't.
Which does make sense, because underneath it, you can kind of see insecurity there. And it's overcompensating, which actually makes complete sense when you put that into context.
Yeah.
Because he does seem like he is desperately trying to look as upper class as he possibly can all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas I guess if you're David Cameron and you actually do come from that background, you can be a
You're
bit
incredibly laissez-faire about the whole
because
thing.
you're like, well, I've got this. I'm born into it. I don't have to try. So, I mean, I don't know what this whole fucking, like, UKIP wannabe Farage shit is, but there's no way it's going to work in the confines of the Tory party. Now, whether this lot branch off and do their own thing in this kind of weird UKIP / Infowars nightmare they're going to create,
They
but
won't.
it's never going to get elected. It's never going to be a thing.
Ultimately, those people are far more interested in power, so they'll make decisions accordingly when the time comes. That's why the left is much more prone to splintering, because the left is always in pursuit of this absolute perfect ideal, which is where you get the Judean People's Front shit going on. Always searching for the perfect. It's the enemy of the good. Whereas the Tories are properly interested in power.
Am I right in saying? I'll wait for the dog. That's a tail.
It's Douglas Ross who wants to join us.
I can hear what you're saying about me. What I was going to ask, am I right in saying that the reason why your Ross Thomsons and your Borises and all this, the idiots, is the reason why they're so passionate about Brexit working, or Brexit being a thing rather, is because it's the only chance these people will ever have of being important or significant. Because if the country was normal and it was sane and Brexit wasn't happening and people were smart, there's no way these guys would be anywhere near the front line of politics. So because an incredibly stupid thing is happening, this has sprungboard a whole bunch of really dumb people to the front.
Yeah.
And these people, under any normal conditions, these folk would be nowhere near here. So the dumber we make the politics, the more chance that a fucking Ross Thomson can be a thing amongst it.
Let's face it, you wouldn't actually leave Ross Thomson in charge of a sub post office, would you? Let alone government. But I genuinely think the likes of Ross Thomson get elected or get put into a position where they are the person that the party puts out to be elected, is because the Tory pool of talent is very, very small in
Getting
Scotland.
smaller, because I saw some of the Tory party conference footage and it wasn't exactly a sellout. There was a front cover of a newspaper that showed how Boris had...
Stop calling him Boris.
What are we called? Should we
Just call him Johnson.
Johnson.
Come to Pfeffel.
Johnson.
Defeffel. Yeah.
So Johnson.
He wants you to call him Boris, and that's all you need to know about why you shouldn't.
Right, so the Tory conference had not many people attending it, but the one room that got attention was the Bojo room, or the Johnson room, got all the butts in the seats. And that's interesting. It says the Tory party, the major part of it is dying. The one part that seems to be not thriving, I don't want to go that far, but is like the Nutter contingent. But if this plays out logically the whole way through, if Brexit falls in its arse, does the Tory party die? Because if this is the future of the Tory party, if Ross Thomson is the future of the Tory party, how can it last? There we go. That's what I was trying to get to. I knew I had a thought, and that was it. It was if the Johnsons are the Tory party and the Ross Thomsons are the thing, if they're now seen as the future, and those are where the butts are in the seats at the conference, how can that party possibly exist in 20 years' time? Is England that dumb?
Yes.
Fuck.
Parts of it are.
What happened?
I don't know. I've lived here most of my life.
Ross Thompson got elected here. I mean, okay, there's not many of the Ross Thompsons up here, but he did manage it. I mean, so like, how does that happen?
Do you think people are more kind of voting against things these days rather than for something?
I think that's probably the case, yeah. I don't think people voted for Ross Thompson, I mean, other than probably his mum. I think...
Still irons his shirts.
But, yeah, people are voting against things, aren't they? You know, the Tory surge in Scotland was as a result of... kind of the unionist vote realising it was splitting itself between Labour and moving to the right and voting Tory.
So basically what happened was that the Labour Party went too lefty with Corbyn. So as they went more lefty, they became less Union Jacky. And therefore people that probably would have voted Labour historically, but they love that flag. They can't get enough of that flag. So when that happened, they then went to the Tories just because of that sexy, sexy flag that they just can't get enough of, even though it's just a fucking flag. But that seems to be it. Because if you put any more thought into it than that, there's no way you would elect Ross Thompson to do anything, ever. He's a cheerleader, basically, is what he is. I mean, he's not got any ideas of his own that seem to be of any real significance or weight. I can see him being the kind of guy that he sits and watches like Paul Joseph Watson videos and it's just like, wow, and then listens to Boris speeches and just looks at pictures of Churchill in a weird way. And yeah, I can't really see him formulating critical thought in his own head.
I know. I mean, I love the way all these people are so infatuated with Churchill. Churchill was a hugely flawed man who, you know, caused mass devastation in India and things like that. However, Churchill would nonetheless have fucking kicked these arseholes across 3 counties. Do you know what I mean? You just...
I like the way they try and keep comparing Brexit to like the Second World War, and it's like it's not the Second World War in any way.
I love the way that, you know, Farage is fucking obsessed with Churchill, and you know, the idea of the European Union essentially becoming a United States of Europe was Churchill's.
I know, it's to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And these countries working peacefully together. We can't be having that. We have to have a war.
Well, it's that Hegelian great man theory thing that's like cropped up a lot recently. You know, where you get these guys like Trump and Farage and Boris Johnson. You want these strongmen leaders. Yeah. You know, it's often like the fascist right that likes them. But it's more seeping in than just mainstream politics now, where these people are very popular.
The thing I've always said about Hitler is he was only as evil as the people around him. Because obviously he was a very, very fucking evil man, but he wouldn't have got anywhere unless a bunch of people were like, oh yeah, we'll cheerlead this. You're great, Hitler. Good job.
That's right. We need to blame the people who are really at fault here, which is the general public.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm not comparing Boris Johnson to Hitler. But nonetheless, with Ross Thompson being that cheerleader character, like this is why Boris is still seen to be a thing and to be important, because he has these kind of like these guys that are just hailing him as the second coming. And same thing with Rees-Mogg. It's the fanboys that are really to blame for all of this. You know, if these people could just formulate some fucking thoughts in their own head and not just regurgitate other people's shit, we wouldn't be in this problem. And to be fair, I mean, the same thing is true of Corbyn, where like Corbyn is massively flawed. Like, he's not nearly as bad as Boris Johnson or, you know, Jacob Rees-Mogg. But, I mean, the fact you've got supporters of him that can't see the flaws. And even Nicola Sturgeon, to be fair, isn't perfect either. But when you get in the dodgy territory...
Take that back.
She's close.
I
She's
love
very
Nicola.
close. She's only got minor flaws.
The thing I really like best about Nicola Sturgeon is how bad she is sometimes at keeping her thoughts off her face.
But I think that's really clever. I was given great advice years ago where I was told that when I was in the military, you can get charged for what you say, but you cannot get charged for a look. Sound advice for fucking life, that, where if you don't have to say anything to someone, but you can project what you're thinking through your eyes. And that's what she's very good at doing that.
She's very, very good at doing that, and it just makes me want to kiss her. I look at her when someone's saying something so fucking stupid and ridiculous and hypocritical, and she'll just be there with that look on her face, and she'll do just sort of little looks, and I feel your pain, Nicola. I'm with you, you know. Because she seems in that moment, she's all of us. You know what I mean?
The Great
Dealing
Man
with
Theory
wanks.
thing as well. I think what Nicola's quite unique about is that she doesn't have that cult of personality. I think that they tried to do that with her, but it doesn't really suit her.
No.
Because there was an election, I think, where it was just like Nicola's everywhere, and it was like Nicola stood on stage holding a pamphlet with her face on it in front of a sign with her face on it. I'm like, whoa, let's dial this back here, guys. But I think they realised that it didn't work with her, that what people like about her is the fact she's actually quite reasoned and she'll weigh things up, she'll take her time, and she's quite smart. Whereas if you look at, Alex Salmond by contrast, he is an absolute cult of personality. Like, he's got, well, he wants to admit it or not, way more in common with Boris Johnson than he'd like to admit in terms of that. If you're an Alex Salmond fan, my God, this guy is flawless. He is perfect. Whereas Nicola's quite good because you can still be a fan of her, but you can go, I don't really like that bit, I don't like that bit, and it's all okay. There isn't this kind of weird, creepy cult of personality around her. And I think that's why, generally speaking, in Scotland, the SNP have done so well, because if they do make a fuck up, they will be open to criticism, and you can see change happening. Whereas down south, it seems to be everything is personality politics now. Like, Corbyn is just a total cult of personality now.
Yeah.
Bojo is the same way, Rees-Mogg is the same way, Farage is the same way.
And
all they're criticising May for these days is the fact that she's got no fucking personality. Now, she's also got no fucking brain in her head, but, at the same time, I don't think they're focusing on the issue here. You can have the most boring Prime Minister in the world, but if they know what the fuck they're doing, that's what you need.
Yeah.
Whereas the media in England right now are like, look at her, she's terrible, she's got no personality, she's a robot, she's the Maybot. Like, great, we'll have a fucking android for PM. If it can do the fucking job, right, I've not got a fucking problem with it. Like, I don't need the most charismatic person on earth. I need someone capable, and that's what Nicola has, with just enough charisma to kind of nudge you over.
Yeah.
But her draw is not the fact that she's super charismatic. Her draw is the fact that she knows what the fuck she's doing. That's what it is.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that, and I'm the cult of personality thing, and they're desperately trying to do that with Theresa May. I mean, having her coming out fucking dancing to ABBA onto the stage,
single-handedly killed the one band everyone in the world likes. Everyone loves ABBA universally, and she's ruined it.
She runs a real risk of getting the absolute crap kicked out of by drag queens, and they don't take prisoners. Do you know what I mean? Like, hey, don't you fuck with ABBA? But it just, I even if I disagree with somebody's politics, I want to be able to respect the office. And the problem with all these cunts is that they are utterly spunking away the authority of their office with these stupid childish antics.
Because when I first saw her doing it, I was like, I thought it was like a thing from The Last Leg. It was like a parody or something she'd taken part in. And I was like, oh shit, this is her conference speech. And I had to go look, considering the horrors of what's happening in the UK right now, you're like, this is not the time to be doing this. And the other thing too, it spoke so much about how her mind worked, because that's what she viewed as a priority. Like, it was, everyone's laughing at my dancing. They're laughing at my last speech last year. It wasn't anything about bettering the country. Her first thought, like the first thing she wanted to give an impression about, was how she was perceived, which to me just absolutely screams insecurity. When you start going, I'm in on the joke, I'm alright about that, that's when you actually, it's really bothered you. And it highlighted to me like so much of where her priorities lie. I don't want to break down the whole fucking speech, but the fact that seemed to be the big thing that everyone took away from it.
Yeah, it's all just superficial nonsense.
But it matters to them. That's what I'm saying. It's like that she clearly, because I read somewhere that that was her idea, that actually wasn't a thing they'd planned out. A lot of people did not know she was going to do this, and she was the one that was like, I'll do this. because I think in her brain, that's what they want. And I'm going, this isn't leadership. Like you're letting the pressure of them get to you. That's not how you lead in anything. If you're doing stand up, you command the room. You don't pander like that.
If something goes wrong, you can. If you've got substance about yourself, you can own it and make a joke about it. I don't know that I would trust her not to fuck it up, but what I might have done was have one of the letters on the back thing slightly askew, and I'd have walked on stage and just straightened that and walked on. But you just wouldn't trust her that it wouldn't fall over, and then she'd be fucking.
But she could say things like, right, I can't dance, but what I can do is lead. There could have been lines like that or something where you're referencing it, but you're making the point.
You've got to wonder if there's folk around her, like all her advisors and stuff, who just are wanting her to screw it up. It's that bad, do you think? They must just really like Boris Johnson or something.
I'm maybe giving them too much credit, but I can't help but be cynical that the whole thing might have actually been not that terrible an idea, because here we are talking about her fucking dancing. It's another layer of conversation that we have to get through before we actually get to a substantive issue.
Well, I never listened to it, she said anyway, so
neither did I.
I tried to watch it live and didn't make it 10 minutes in. It was so cringy, because I think she went from the dancing to like talking about the Second World War, and of course the room are going to applaud that. So you're going for, I'll do my dance, that'll get a cheap pop, I'll then go, remember the war we won? It's the most like clapping seals. Like, this is in wrestling when you go in, it's like, it's really good to be here in Florida tonight, and they all go, way! Like, it's the same gimmick, just a political spin on it.
It's bizarre that they focus on that though, because obviously most rudimentary historical knowledge, that is the end of the British Empire,
the last good
of which we are hearing its final fucking death rattles. It's weird that the right wing in this country kind of focus on that. You know what they say about the Second World War? They say that we won the war, but we lost the empire.
And Ross is just there going, because he's not got a personality. So he's one of these people that's like, that when you haven't got it, you attach yourself because you want to be part of the show.
You're a henchman.
Yeah, you attach yourself to like the Borises or the Rees-Moggs because you haven't got the stuff to be the main guy, but you kind of like ride the coattails. I mean, that is him, isn't it? I mean, he's not coming on the scene.
He's the second in command from The Office, isn't he?
He's Gareth.
That's who Ross Thompson is. Don't like jelly. Don't trust the way it moves.
Do you know, I think it's weird that the most of the Scottish Tories though seem to be against Boris. I think that's kind of a wee bit interesting. Well, obviously Ross Thompson's not in that crowd, but they had this
he
plan.
thinks they're all arseholes.
Yeah, Ruth Davidson came out pretty strongly against
Operation Arse. Was their plan?
He put out a tweet saying #Operation Arseholes, and this was in reference to all the Scottish Tories that were anti-Bojo, basically. So he, in effect,
no, but their plan, they had called it Operation Arse, apparently. So that's he was referencing that.
I think Operation Arse was to stop an arse taking charge of the Tory party.
But at that point, you're like, well, if you're going to be that fucking stupid to run with a hashtag that's basically saying at least a contingent of our own party are arses.
Well, no, I think that was
that was
kind of like an undercover thing.
Name.
Just like I don't know what it was, like in a WhatsApp
so he
group
broke
or something.
kayfabe. He was like, this was all done on the hush, and then he exposed it. And
he found out.
So it was like a WhatsApp type chat thing, and then he just put it out to the public.
Yeah.
Which is okay, so he's still fucked up then.
So he seems to be on his own, which is interesting, that they seem to be not.
Well, Ruth
not
Davidson, she did come out against it, but she's also downplayed criticism of the Prime Minister, and I don't know, I mean, it seems like, because they're all infighting. This is the great thing I find about Ruth Davidson, because she's always heralded as this great leader, and yet her branch office is a fucking riot. Like, they're all infighting amongst themselves up there, whereas Nicola does typically keep the troops in line. Whereas Ruth, the alleged great leader, it's all a fucking mess. And she's now ruled out running for PM, apparently. So that presumably ties her hands slightly, because I guess she probably could have come out more aggressively against both May and Bojo in a power play, but she doesn't seem that interested in having power.
Well, she's a bit busy at the moment.
She's in the wrong parliament as well.
Well, yeah, but there's things, would you move down and whatever else. Hopefully she'll just have a kid and go, actually, this politics stuff's a bit rubbish and just go away and be normal or something.
And then they can let Murdo Fraser be in charge, and I can have as much fun with him as I used to have with Jim Murphy.
Yes, that'll be great. Oh, can you imagine Murdo being in charge of the fucking Scottish Conservatives? Oh my god.
He's another right nasty little bastard, isn't
Who
he?
is deputising? Is it Jackson Carl or?
Yeah. I'm saying coleslaw whenever I've been
Jackson
I'd be much
Coleslaw.
more. I'm going to say Jackson Carlo is a much sharper politician. He'd be much more dangerous in charge of the Tory party. He's actually. I'd be much more threatened by him because I think he's actually quite competent, and that's what I worry about.
I've just had a memory about Adam Tompkins, MSP. I wish to share with you.
Please share.
I walked by Mr. Tompkins on Dumbarton Road. Must have been about 8:30 in the morning. Had his suitcase, so he's obviously going to Partick Station to go to Edinburgh. I would assume to go to do whatever it is he does. But he made eye contact with me, and it was a very long period of time, kind of semi-disparaging look. And then I thought, does he know who I am? Then I remembered about 2 days previous to this, Ruth Davidson had announced that she was going to publish this book, and there was all these comments, day job and all that kind of stuff. And I made the point on Twitter that yes, it makes a mockery of all that, but if you had to work with Murdo Fraser and Adam Tompkins, wouldn't you lock yourself in a room for months and write a fucking book? And I just, in that moment, just as our eyes separated, I remembered and just thought of him Twitter searching his own name and just seeing this fucking nobody shitting on him completely needlessly, and that he felt sad about that. I like to think that's what happened. Yeah.
You do have quite a recognisable face, and you do have your face on your Twitter.
I know, yeah.
Why, if you were a politician, why would you search for your own name? I mean, that's just the portal into hell, isn't it? It doesn't matter what party,
I think
what side
anybody,
you're in.
any business you're in, if you're a celebrity or a known person of any kind, searching your own name must be the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yeah.
Because everyone hates everybody now. So, like, there's no way, even if you were Jesus, they'd be critics, you know? I mean, like, that's just the way the world is.
There was a fantastic comment I saw. I cannot remember exactly where I saw this, but it was, with regards to the state of the internet. It was when the internet started, I thought it was the hope for mankind. Now everybody's fighting, and I'm being followed around by a pair of slippers I bought 2 months ago.
It's the state of the world right now.
Yeah.
Well, we need to weigh up the pros and cons of Ross Thompson as a political entity. Obviously, the cons are that he's Ross Thompson, but the pro is that he is Ross Thompson. And, he is inherently fucking hilarious and ridiculous.
He's not a threat. I mean, I guess that's what you're saying, isn't it? I mean, he'll provide us with great comedy, and he'll just be an asset to Scottish independence and the SNP, because he's never going to do anything good, ever. Because
He's the new
Ross
Jim
Thompson.
Murphy.
He is this generation's Jim Murphy. And as you know,
My God,
we have a
second
referendum
coming.
every generation.
How old is he?
9.
I want to say Douglas Ross he might have just turned 30, I think. Douglas Ross is
millennial Tories freak me out. It's just weird. To me, Tories are these old people that they were all going to dial off. But there's this weird... there's not very many of them, but it's weird that I don't understand how you could be a young person.
It's what whiny kids grow up to be. And there's an actual study that it's that. Do you mind when you were at school? There were always the kids that could be absolutely relied upon to be fucking gritting-faced wee bastards about absolutely fucking everything. The ones that wouldn't let their fucking mums leave the playground. The ones that were crying because they didn't like what they'd got for their sandwiches. The ones that were always blaming everybody else for everything all the fucking time and causing trouble and making a fucking nuisance of themselves in class. That's who grows up to be right-wingers. Somebody did a study, and it's true. Whiny kids grow up Tory. Or grow up conservative, as it is in America. They grow up Tory because they have no responsibility. They're always blaming other people. So that grows into the mentality of, everything is the problem of, immigrants and poor people and slackers and scroungers, without them ever realising that the people who take responsibility for themselves and other people are actually people who think that society should benefit everybody. That's taking responsibility. It's actually, and they're always the fucking cunts who bang on about personal responsibility whilst taking none, because they always externalise their own inferiority. So that's where these people are. They're whiny kids.
I've just upset myself now. I'm just thinking about Ross Thomson in the House of Commons opening up his Tupperware
And finding out
but
that
he's got a ham sandwich with butter and he gets a little lump in his throat. I don't like that. That's sad.
for